Hello! So, I wasn't really planning on filming a video today, but here we are. So this is my what I read slash watched in April wrap-up video, so yeah, that's what this is. So in April I read 4 books, and the first one was Tell Me Again How a Crush Should Feel by Sara Farizan. And basically, the premise, the main character Lila, she's the daughter of Persian immigrants, and she goes to a school full of rich white kids. And also, she's gay. Basically, she doesn't feel like she fits in, and one day, this new girl transfers to the school, and she's also Persian American. And so Lila starts to develop feelings for her, and she's also talking to an old friend again, and the book is basically her trying to navigate and accept who she is. And so my thoughts on this, I really did not like this book. I gave it 1.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was full of a lot of superficial and stereotypical bullshit, and the writing style was like meh. And granted, it is the author's second book, so I understand that she's not that experienced yet, but yeah. And there were also just some weird lines that were like strangely immature. So it definitely reminded me of like the first half of Girl Made of Stars. So if you saw my wrap up for last month, you would know what I'm talking about. But it just is very immature and the writing isn't great. And I'm starting to feel like I'm growing out of YA because my tolerance for this is getting real low. Okay, so the only thing I didn't have super negative feelings about was the whole thing about Lila worrying about coming out and feeling like she didn't fit in because she was the daughter of Persian immigrants. And that's valid, that's understandable, and I'm sure it's based on the author's personal experience. But I read plenty of books with LGBTQ plus main characters, and this was definitely nothing special. I thought it could have been deeper and could have been developed more. And to me, that was kind of the main part of the book, but in the end, it wasn't really touched on that much. Okay, so on to the stuff that pissed me off. So first of all, the superficial, stereotypical bullshit. So of course there's a bitchy mean girl named Ashley, and I was just like, okay, is this every high school book slash movie ever? Like, literally, get some new ideas. And the way her character is depicted is just so infuriating. Like, here's a quote: Ashley cackles with a fervor and depth that only a bitchy blonde 16-year-old can. Like, not even subtle. There's the whole thing about how she's cool and a mean girl, aka she's girly and cares about fashion and wears a lot of makeup and, is slutty. And what was that face? I don't know. But like, of course, this is the exact opposite of how the main character is. Also, apparently she's rumored to have slept with a teacher, which is something the main character seems to care a lot about because she brings it up so many times. And of course, this makes Ashley seem like the bad guy here, even though we should be worrying about the fact that a teacher is literally sleeping with a high schooler. Like, come on. And then this line is just actually ridiculous. So, for context, Lila is worrying about being outed, and she says this in her narration. So this other character would just need to tell one person at school and the rumor would spread faster than Ash's legs in Mr. Harris's science lab. Like, bruh. Like, I don't even know what to say in this situation. Because, like, she's worrying about being outed, and yet she still manages to take shots at Ashley. Like, there's no reason for her to do that, and yet she does. Like, she's got bigger things to worry about than what Ashley is doing with her legs. Just saying. And then this part is just so stupid, I don't even know what to say. So Ashley and another character show up to a dance wearing the same dress, and then Ashley runs out crying hysterically. Like, bruh, what? Is this satire? Like, who actually acts like this in real life? Okay, so another stereotypical character is Thomas, who's literally the epitome of the gay stereotype. So he does theater and is giddy to a stereotypical T. Like, this is an actual line in the book. And he gets befriended by mean girls. Literally, at one point, because it's in Lila's point of view, she describes him as a fun new accessory. And like, first of all, I feel like this says a lot more about Lila than the mean girls, because those girls are actually taking him in and being friends with him. And obviously it's not clear whether or not it's because he's a fun new accessory, and it's kind of hinted like that, but we don't see the mean girls' perspective. So we don't know if they're just kind of using him superficially or if they're actually like genuinely friends with him. And if they had touched upon that more, it could have shown some nuance in that they're like cliquey and mean or whatever, like that stereotypical bullshit, but they're also capable of being nice to people. Because this whole thing is like, Lila's being super judgmental. She literally says, I was happy for him, but I resented the crap out of him for being friends with the mean girls. But like, keep in mind, Thomas came out, he's like the only openly gay person at the school, and he got bullied for it and called the F slur. But the mean girls are the ones who are nice to him. And it's like, it's not really Lila's place to judge who Thomas is friends with. And let's not forget, she herself has not come out. I feel like she's extremely lacking in empathy in this situation, even though she could possibly relate. She might even do the same thing if she was in his situation. Like, So yeah, that's another thing. Like, Lila is super judgmental about everyone and critical of them for the dumbest reasons. But, like, bruh, look in the mirror. Some self-awareness. Like, Lila's whole thing is, like, she's hashtag quirky and not like the other girls. So much of my soul just died saying that. I understand the thing about her not feeling like she fits in because of her race and her sexuality, but it's repeatedly emphasized that she doesn't know stuff about fashion and bullshit like that, and, like, who cares? No one cares. Like, people are complex individuals, and not knowing anything about fashion doesn't make you special, okay? And the last thing is just, like, cringy, weirdly immature moments in the book. So I'm just gonna read some quotes for you, and feel free to cringe along with me. So they're playing soccer, and then the ball clocks me in the boobs. Like, why? Like, I don't know. I don't know. And then the main character is auditioning for a play. She's doing really well. And then this line. But any chance of that happening is gone as I fart loudly in front of everyone. Like, what is this? Is this like a book for second graders? Like, I don't even understand. Is this supposed to be funny? Because what kind of humor is this? Like, who would find this funny besides like a 5-year-old? Another part, a child literally says, and I quote, "Mommy, her boobs are huge." Okay, I keep making this face, but that is like literally my reaction throughout this entire book. Also, I just spit. I don't know if you saw that, because that's how annoyed I am. But, okay, and then I feel like I've been punched in the vagina. Again, same thing. Like, what? Why? And then this last one, it's just like epitome of cringe, and like no judgment to anyone who's really into vampires or whatever, but this girl, she really likes vampires and is one because she wears fangs and stuff, and at one point she literally bares her fangs and hisses at someone. Like, dude, what the fuck? And okay, this last one was just like a badly written line that was bad enough for me to notice, because like I said, I don't really notice writing unless it's really bad. So this one is just, they're at a wedding or something, and then they're like gossiping, and then it says, all the women eat that stuff up like it's to dig, the crispy rice dripping with oil that tastes so good. It was bad enough for me to notice, because it's like, there's so many, it just keeps adding on, like, just to dig, the crispy rice dripping with oil that tastes so good. Like, it just keeps going. So I'm like, bruh. The one last thing is just like, one character's personality just does a complete 180 in the middle of the book, and there's no explanation for it, and it's completely out of left field, and I just feel like there could have been room for a lot of development and nuance in this character if it had been better explained, but you know, one character just completely changes personality, and you're just like, okay, this is happening, I guess. Yeah, so the only reason I didn't give this a full 1 star is because I only hated most of it as opposed to all of it. I think if Lila's struggles with her identity had been infuriating or problematic, I definitely would have given it 1 star. So yeah. So the next book I read was Misery by Stephen King. And so basically, there's this famous writer named Paul Sheldon, and he just finished writing his latest book. So he decides to go on a drive to celebrate. The only problem is he's drunk and there's a snowstorm coming. So he gets in a car accident and breaks both of his legs. So he wakes up in the house of his biggest fan, who just saved him from the car wreck and nursed him back to health. And the only problem is she's a little, you know, and she wants Paul to write a new book. Okay, I know I'm in the minority for this, because on Goodreads, every review I saw was 5 stars, and everyone thought it was really tense and thrilling and whatever, but honestly, I was like pretty bored, so I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. There are a few gruesome and exciting parts, but for the most part, I felt like nothing was really happening, and it wasn't really tense for me. Yeah, I kind of just felt like the main character was just like sitting around, you know, and working on that book, and then the other character is just like, you know, being crazy and stuff. And there's some parts where it's like excerpts from the book he's writing, and those parts I pretty much just skipped because it didn't really have any bearing on the actual plot, and it was also historical fiction, and I hate historical fiction, so it was cool to read about writing from a writer's perspective, and I like that, but I don't know, I didn't feel any of the tension that was supposed to be in the book. And I know most people who really liked it did, but I just did not see it at all. So yeah, please don't come for me, like, that's just my opinion. Yeah, that's all I have to say. But there was one part that actually really pissed me off. There are several instances where something happens and then Stephen King describes it by comparing it to rape, and that is just not okay. So here are some excerpts. So this first one, Paul is getting CPR and the person's breath is really nasty. So the quote is, "The outrush of breath she had forced in him the way a man might force a part of himself into an unwilling woman." And then she raped him full of her Arian and being raped back to life by the woman's stinging breath. Okay, the other one, No spoilers, so I won't give the exact context, but all you need to know is that it's not talking about actual rape in this situation, even though it sounds like it without context. But basically this quote, he was lying squarely on top of her like a man who means to commit rape, and then, I'm gonna rape you, alright? I'm gonna rape you because all I can do is the worst I can do. And so, like, I understand the comparison because the point is something is being forced upon someone else against their will, but, like, why? Like, this is not appropriate. They're not the same thing. They're not comparable. And it's so, like, just no. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Like, basically, for the most part, it was, like, whatever. I didn't feel like it was really exciting, even though, like, you know, that's not the majority opinion on this. But yeah, I really had to, like, struggle to get through it because it was just, like, so boring for me. But yeah, the rape analogies are just not okay. So the next book I read was Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. So it's written in verse, it's really short, and basically the main character, Will, his brother gets murdered in front of him, so he decides to go and take revenge. So he's going down the elevator to leave his apartment, and the elevator stops on every floor, and someone comes in and tries to convince him not to go through with it. Yeah, so it was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think there's really much I can say without spoiling it, because it is really short, but it was really good. It's very powerful. And it talks about violence in African American communities and how they affect young people in those communities. And I listened to the audiobook, which is read by the author, so that was pretty cool. So would recommend doing that. And I listened to it on 2 times speed, so I finished it in like 45 minutes. So yeah, it's a really short book, and you should definitely go read it. And then the last book I read this month was Dear Martin by Nick Stone. So this is another book about race and racial injustice in America. And so basically the main character, Justice, is, you know, your typical good kid. He's smart, he's Ivy League bound, but none of that matters when he gets put into handcuffs by a white cop who thinks he's up to no good. So he's treated really unfairly, he gets arrested for, like, basically no reason. So he starts writing to MLK for guidance. So he's trying to understand how he dealt with people and managed to adhere to his pacifist ideals during the height of the civil rights movement. So he's being very reflective and introspective about race and trying to figure out how he should act in these situations. And one day, Justice and his friend goes for a drive, and they're blasting loud music, which pisses off an off-duty cop, and words are exchanged, shots are fired. Yeah, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was pretty good, and I would definitely recommend if you're not very familiar with race issues in the US. And yeah, it talks about a lot of stuff. It talks about police brutality, unjust shootings of black people, villainization of black people and black victims in the media, and also because Justice is from a poor community, but he goes to a boarding school that's mostly rich white kids. It also talks about trying to live up to the expectations of both black and white people, and just the struggles of trying to figure out where you fit in those two communities. Yeah, so good book. Yeah, so I thought it was good. It was definitely just like a good crash course if you're not very familiar, because I knew about a lot of the stuff they were talking about already, so I don't think it was really anything new, but it's definitely a good read. Yeah, so now I'm gonna talk about just some stuff I watched this month. So first, a really highly anticipated movie for me called The Half of It. I've literally been looking forward to this movie since it was announced that it was being made like a year ago. So basically, the main character has this service where she writes essays for people, and then one day this guy asks her to write a love letter for the girl that they both have a crush on. I was really hoping for some good gay shit. I love that sapphic shit. It was a decent movie, but I definitely think I was expecting a lot of things and I didn't really get them. So, yeah. So this next show, I was just scrolling through Netflix and I saw it and I was like, I have to watch this. So, it's called The Victim's Game, at least that's the English translation, but it's this Taiwanese show. So basically this forensic analyst is investigating a murder and then he finds out his daughter might be involved, and I know that's like a boring sounding synopsis, but it's actually really interesting, and it was such a good show. It's like 8 episodes, they're each like 50 minutes-ish, and yeah, definitely binge-worthy and really good. And it was really cool because this is the first show I've seen on Netflix that's in Mandarin that I was actually interested in, because all the stuff I've seen has been like C-dramas basically. They have this quirky K-drama-esque comedic style, and I don't like that much, so it was cool to watch a crime show in Mandarin, and it was really fun. And yeah, it's a really good show, and I highly recommend. It's really well produced, and the music is really good, and it was also just cool to like re-immerse myself in, you know, Asian culture or whatever. It's also AAPI month, so stan Asians, y'all. Yeah, so that's all I have to say for this month, and go stream The Victim's Game on Netflix, and goodbye.